Energy. Why Ken's wrong. Energy Unification is a document Ken Wheeler has prepared to explain his grand unified theory of energy in the universe. Find out why his latest hypothesis is invalid, unsound, and demonstrably false. We all use the word energy every day, but it's a notoriously difficult term to define scientifically. Aristotle talked about energia, which in his day meant something more like activity. For Aristotle, energy and motion were intimately connected. In the 19th century, Lord Kelvin and Rudolf Clausius each came up with the first law of thermodynamics. It states that although a closed system's total energy may transfer or transform, it always conserves its total energy. Ken Wheeler proudly unveiled a new publication recently called Energy Unification. It purports to demonstrate the unified nature of all energy. Energy Unification claims to reveal the absolute simplicity by which nature expresses all universal energy modalities, from light, radio, gamma, visible to matter, to the end of matter. From circular to spherical to inertial, energy capacitance unification is nature's geometric divinity of absolute simplicity. Kentucky Ken's geometry of the conjugate field is his notion of the hyperboloid and the torus. We outline why this model is logically invalid and empirically unsound under magnetism, why Ken's wrong. The angry photographer denies that light consists of photons with wave-like and particle-like properties. This contradicts over 2 centuries of progressive experimental evidence. Building on these false claims, Kentucky Ken asserts that when electromagnetic waves reach their maximum frequency, they form atoms, creating matter. There's no evidence for this, and light lacks matter's key properties of mass and volume. The Theoria Apophasis host then discusses what he calls the coaxial light circuit, which conflicts with reality because light isn't coaxial. Light's not an electrical signal, and it doesn't travel through conductive material like the components of a coaxial cable. Light travels through the vacuum of space in waveform, and those waves don't need a medium through which to spread. Electromagnetism has no maximum frequency or energy capacitance barrier, at least in principle. Above 1024 Hz, we don't have instruments that can measure light's wavelength. Even so, we know that electromagnetic waves are the same phenomenon even at more extreme frequencies. Scientists can also describe extremely high-frequency waves with the same mathematical framework. To work his way around this, the Theoria Apophasis host resorts to a concept he calls spherical frequency, or sometimes, inaccurately, circular frequency. He seems to have lifted this term from an advanced mathematical technique called spherical geometry. It's a method of applying 2-dimensional geometry to a curved surface like a sphere. However, there's no such thing as spherical frequency, either in physics or in mathematics. In any case, since spherical frequency is an invalid concept, it doesn't explain how an electromagnetic wave could take on matter's key properties of mass and volume. At this point, it's already clear that the angry photographer's energy unification theory is invalid and unsound. Even so, we'll pursue the rest of his speculations. According to Kentucky Ken, when matter reaches a point where his so-called dielectric capacitance overwhelms its spatial attribute of magnetism, it breaks a barrier he calls the collapsed closed-loop supermass, causing a black hole. We've already seen that there's no such thing as the dielectric, so it can't have properties such as capacitance. Capacitance refers to a system's ability to store an electric charge, and black holes don't conduct electricity at all. So this black hole phase of Ken Wheeler's energy unification theory is also false. At this point, we have just one more phase to consider, so we may as well persist. The supermassive black holes at the center of most galaxies emit narrow streams of plasma and subatomic particles called extragalactic jets. These jets are some of the universe's largest objects. The angry photographer speculates that these jets contain trillions of tons of extra hydrogen that black holes create spontaneously. The difficulty with this hypothesis is that it's physically impossible. Returning to the first law of thermodynamics, a black hole is a closed system, so it can't generate extra matter or extra energy of any kind. So now we've arrived back at the beginning of the energy unification life cycle as conceived by Ken Wheeler. Having done so, we can now confidently declare it to be absolute bunk from beginning to end. But wait, there's more. What grand theory of everything would be complete without a mathematical formula? The Theoria Apophasis host generously shares an equation with his readers. It goes like this: P equals F C cubed, where P equals proton, which Ken Wheeler mistakenly conflates with atoms, hydrogen, and matter, F equals frequency, and C equals capacitance, or ether induction rate. As we explain in more detail under Matter Why Ken's Wrong, this formula is meaningless. Each of the equation's variables have different units and dimensions, so we can't combine them in a mathematical expression. Fittingly, the formula is as meaningless as Ken Wheeler's entire energy unification project. Once again, Ken Wheeler's latest notion is regrettable. He's clearly devoted a great deal of time and effort to this document, particularly the graphic design, and he seems to view it as a crowning achievement in his scientific and metaphysical legacy. The truth is, he's produced a meaningless document that readers will ignore or view with derision. It's disheartening to think what Ken Wheeler might have achieved if he had devoted his own energy to something useful.